From the tiny Japanese midget submarines to the massive aircraft-carrying I-400 class, this is the complete overview of the most important submarine classes used in World War II. Let's start with when underwater warfare became decisive. World War II was the first conflict where submarines truly dominated. Over 700 German U-boats prowled the Atlantic. American submarines strangled Japan's merchant fleet. British subs hunted in the Mediterranean. Soviet boats operated in the Baltic and Black Sea. Italian submarines ranged across 3 continents. French subs fought for both sides. By war's end, submarines had sunk over 3,000 Allied merchant ships and well over 20 million tons of warships worldwide. But the cost was staggering. Germany lost 765 U-boats, Japan lost 129 submarines, Italy 91, Britain 73, America 52, France 59. The Soviet Union was probably around 80 submarines, though the exact records remain incomplete. But the entire crew vanished beneath the waves, often without anyone ever knowing what happened. The submarine service was called the silent service for good reason. Families at home heard nothing for months. One day your son was alive. The next, he simply never came back. American submariners suffered one of the highest casualty rates of any U.S. military service branch, with roughly 20% killed. 3,506 American sailors died in 52 submarines. German U-boat crews faced even worse odds. Of roughly 39,000 men who served in U-boats, 30,000 were killed or went missing. That's a 70 to 75% death rate, yet men kept volunteering because submarines offered something unique: the ability to strike at enemy shipping lanes, disrupt supply lines, and influence entire campaigns without ever fighting a traditional battle. Now to the German U-boats that nearly won the Atlantic. Type XXI U-boat, the workhorse of the fleet. Over 709 were built, making it the most produced submarine in history. The Type XXI displaced roughly 770 tons on the surface and about 870 tons submerged. Its diesel engines pushed it to 17 knots on the surface. Submerged, electric motors provided 7.6 knots. These weren't the largest or fastest submarines, but they were reliable, relatively cheap, and deadly. The Type 7C variant, introduced in 1940, made up over 75% of total production. 577 Type 7Cs were built. They carried 14 torpedoes, had a crew of 44 to 52 men, and could patrol for over 12,000 nautical miles. Here's what made Type 7 U-boats terrifying. They operated in wolf packs, coordinating attacks on Allied convoys using radio communication. One U-boat would spot a convoy, shadow it, and call in others. Then, they'd attack simultaneously from multiple directions, overwhelming escort ships. In 1940 and 41, U-boats sank merchant ships faster than Britain could replace them. Winston Churchill later said nothing frightened him more during the war than the U-boat threat. By mid-1943, though, Allied technology caught up. Improved radar, long-range aircraft, escort carriers, and code-breaking turned the tide. U-boat losses skyrocketed. Still, Type 7 U-boats remain dangerous until war's end. Type 9 U-boat, the long-range ocean cruiser. 193 were built. These larger submarines displaced over 1,000 tons and had double the range of Type 7s. Type 9s operated in distant waters, off American coasts in the Caribbean, near Africa, and the Indian Ocean. They carried 22 torpedoes and could stay at sea for months. Type 9 boats accounted for hundreds of sinking vessels totaling 2 million tons of shipping, particularly in distant waters. Their extended range meant Allied forces had to defend everywhere, spreading defenses thin. Type 21 U-boat, the submarine that arrived too late. This was revolutionary. The Type 21 was the world's first true submarine designed to operate primarily underwater, not on the surface. Previous submarines were really submersible torpedo boats that operated mostly on the surface and occasionally dove. The 21 could stay submerged for days using a snorkel for diesel engines. It could travel at 17 knots underwater, faster than most Allied escort ships. Its battery capacity was triple that of Type XII's. It was quieter, deeper diving, and hydraulically loaded torpedoes in seconds instead of minutes. About 118 Type XXI boats were launched, but only a handful became operational before Germany's surrender. If they'd arrived 2 years earlier, they might have changed everything. After the war, every Navy studied captured Type 21s. Soviet Whiskey-class, American Tang-class, and British T conversion submarines all borrowed heavily from German designs. Moving on to the American fleet boats that destroyed Japan. Gato-class, the first mass-produced American fleet submarine. 77 were built between 1941 and 1943. These 1,400-ton submarines carried 24 torpedoes, mounted a deck gun, and had a crew of 60 to 80 men. Unlike German U-boats that operated in cramped, miserable conditions, Gato boats offered relative luxury. They had air conditioning, refrigerated food storage, freshwater distilling units, washing machines, and bunks for everyone. Air conditioning wasn't just comfort. In tropical Pacific waters, high humidity caused electrical shorts and fires. Crew comfort actually improved combat effectiveness by reducing fatigue. Balao class, the improved fleet boat, 120 were built with strengthened hulls, allowing dives to 400 feet instead of 300. These submarines continued the devastating campaign against Japanese shipping. Between Gato and Balao classes, American submarines sank over 60% of the Japanese merchant fleet and 30% of Imperial Japanese Navy warships. The submarine USS Tang is credited with over 30 enemy vessels damaged or sunk across her patrols, making her one of the most successful submarines of the war. Tang was eventually sunk by one of her own torpedoes that circled back and hit her. Tench class, arriving as war ended. 31 were completed during wartime with another 11 built after. They featured better fire control systems and improved air conditioning. Most saw limited combat. If you're still here learning about these underwater predators, subscribe for more incredible stories from beneath the waves. Now let's talk about the torpedoes that weren't working. American Mark 14 torpedo, the weapon that failed for 2 years. At war's start, American submarines had a massive problem. Their torpedoes didn't work. Mark 14s ran 10 feet too deep, missing targets entirely. When depth was corrected, they detonated prematurely or failed to explode at all. The magnetic exploders triggered before reaching targets. Contact exploders were faulty, causing duds. Submarine captains reported firing perfect spreads and watching torpedoes pass harmlessly under enemy ships or bounce off their hulls without exploding. Imagine being USS Wahoo's commander Dudley Morton, getting perfect attack positions against Japanese vessels, firing torpedoes, and having nothing happen. The frustration was crushing. The Navy refused to believe submariners' reports for 2 years. The Bureau of Ordnance insisted torpedoes worked perfectly. But commanders started disabling magnetic exploders without permission because they couldn't sink anything otherwise. Finally, in mid-1943, after overwhelming evidence, the Navy admitted the problems and fixed them. By late 1943, after disabling magnetic exploders and fixing depth errors, the Mark 14 finally became reliable. 2 years of combat wasted. Thousands of enemy ships that should have been sunk escaped. But once torpedoes worked, American submarines devastated Japanese shipping. Another torpedo flaw proved deadly for American crews. Sometimes, Mark 14s circled back instead of running straight, attacking the submarine that fired them. USS Tullabee was sunk by her own torpedo. USS Tang was sunk by her own torpedo. Lieutenant Commander Manard Abell's USS Grunion, possibly sunk by a circular-running torpedo, though the exact cause remains uncertain. After decades of searching, Abell's 3 sons finally found Grunion's wreckage, solving a 75-year mystery. Next is the British submarines that hunted in dangerous waters, T-class submarine, Britain's most successful design. 53 were built between 1937 and 1945. These 1,300 90-ton submarines were larger than German Type 7s and designed for Far East operations. They mounted 11 21-inch torpedo tubes, more than any other submarine class. 6 tubes faced forward, 2 external tubes faced forward, 1 faced aft, and 2 amidships tubes faced aft. This gave T-boats devastating torpedo salvos. They could launch exceptionally large salvos, with up to 10 torpedoes carried forward, more than any other Allied submarine class. T-class subs operated primarily in the Mediterranean, one of World War II's most dangerous submarine hunting grounds. Unlike the North Atlantic, Mediterranean waters were calm, shallow, and unusually clear. Submarines could be spotted from aircraft even when submerged. The Italians possessed excellent anti-submarine capabilities, including sonar, well-trained escort crews, and extensive minefields. T-class boats suffered heavy losses. HMS Thunderbolt was sunk, HMS Tigris lost, HMS Torbay survived but had close calls, yet T-boats also achieved remarkable successes, sinking Italian warships and supply convoys trying to reach North Africa. U-class submarine, the small coastal patrol boat that exceeded all expectations. These 540-ton boats were designed for training anti-submarine warfare and short-range patrols. Only armed with 6 torpedo tubes and a small deck gun, they seemed inadequate for combat. Then, war started, and U-class boats were thrown into action. HMS Upholder, commanded by Lieutenant Commander Malcolm Wanklyn, conducted 24 patrols in 16 months. Upholder sank 3 U-boats, 1 destroyer, 15 merchant ships, possibly a cruiser, and another destroyer. Total tonnage, 119,000 tons sunk. Wanklyn was awarded the Victoria Cross for attacking a heavily defended convoy and sinking the Italian liner Conte Rosso. Losses in U-class were high. Only 3 of 12 Group II boats survived the war. S-class submarine, Britain's mass-produced coastal boat. 62 were built during the war. These 715-ton submarines operated in North Sea, Mediterranean, and Pacific theaters. They were workhorses, conducting patrols, reconnaissance, and landing special forces behind enemy lines. We can't but also talk about the Japanese submarines that fought the wrong war. I-400 class, the largest submarines of World War II. At 5,200 tons submerged, these monsters could each carry 3 Sarin floatplane bombers. The plan was audacious, submarine aircraft carriers that could strike anywhere. 3 were completed. They had a range of about 37,500 nautical miles, enough to circle the globe once and still have fuel remaining. But Japan used them poorly. Instead of strategic strikes against Panama Canal locks or American West Coast infrastructure, they were tasked with attacking Allied fleets. The war ended before they saw significant combat. After surrender, America scuttled them to prevent Soviet examination. In 201 class, the fastest submarines of World War II. These could reach 19 knots submerged, faster than most surface warships. Only 3 were completed before war ended. They represented Japanese submarine technology at its peak, but arrived too late. Type A Ko-Hyoteki, the midget submarine. These 46-foot, 47-ton boats carried 2 crew and 2 torpedoes. Launched from mother submarines, they participated in the Pearl Harbor attack. 5 midget subs attempted entering Pearl Harbor. All 5 were lost. Only 1 crewman, Ensign Kazu Sakamaki, survived, becoming America's first Japanese prisoner of war. His midget sub was captured and toured America promoting war bonds. Japan built more submarine types than any other navy: fleet submarines, midget submarines, supply submarines, kite and crewed torpedoes. They had the most advanced torpedo in the war, the oxygen-powered Type 95 torpedo. Yet, Japanese submarines achieved far less than American boats. Why? Japanese submarine doctrine prioritized attacking warships instead of merchant shipping. They hunted carriers and battleships while ignoring cargo vessels. American submarines did the opposite, strangling Japan's economy by sinking merchant ships. Japanese submarines sank about 1 million tons of Allied shipping. American submarines sank 5 million tons of Japanese shipping. The difference in strategy was decisive. What about the Italian submarines that roamed 3 continents? Italy operated over 100 submarines during World War II. They ranged from tiny coastal boats to ocean-going vessels. Italian submarines operated in the Mediterranean, Atlantic, Red Sea, and Indian Ocean. Some conducted commerce raids alongside German U-boats. Italian submarine crews were brave and skilled. Despite limited technology, the Regia Marina developed effective regional anti-submarine defenses, especially in the Mediterranean's confined waters. This makes the Mediterranean incredibly dangerous for Allied submarines. Yet, Italian submarines themselves achieved modest results. By war's end, Italy lost 91 submarines, but sank relatively few enemy vessels. The Mediterranean's clarity and shallowness made submarine operations difficult for everyone. Let's talk about the Soviet submarines that operated in isolated seas. The Soviet Navy probably lost 98 submarines during the war. They operated primarily in the Baltic Sea, Black Sea, and Arctic Ocean. Soviet submarine doctrine emphasized coastal defense and attacking enemy supply lines. Many Soviet boats were obsolete pre-war designs. Others were modern fleet submarines. Records are incomplete, but Soviet submarines conducted thousands of patrols, laid mines, and attacked German shipping in northern waters. The Baltic proved particularly dangerous. German anti-submarine forces were effective, and the shallow waters limited Soviet submarine operations. Now to the French submarines that fought for both sides. France lost 59 submarines during the war. When France fell in 1940, the fleet was divided. Some joined Free French forces fighting with allies. Others remained under Vichy control. After Operation Torch, many Vichy French submarines were scuttled to prevent German capture. Free French submarines operated from British ports, conducting patrols in the Mediterranean and Atlantic. Several French submarines were modernized with British equipment and continued fighting until war's end. Moving on to the underwater war's incredible innovations, HMS Venturer achieved something unique in naval history. On February 9, 1945, Venturer attacked and sank German submarine U-864 while both boats were submerged. This was the only submarine-versus-submarine kill where both vessels were underwater. Venturer's commander manually computed a three-dimensional firing solution against a moving target, techniques that became the basis for modern torpedo computer targeting systems. It was like shooting a bullet at another bullet in complete darkness while both are moving in different directions. The underwater war also saw desperate innovations. Germany developed snorkel breathing tubes letting U-boats run diesel engines while submerged. Acoustic homing torpedoes tracked propeller noise. Radar warning receivers detected aircraft. Allied forces countered with improved sonar, depth charges, hedgehog mortars, and escort carriers. The technological race accelerated constantly. Every innovation prompted a counter-innovation. Let's wrap up with the legacy that shaped the Cold War. World War II submarine warfare proved underwater vessels could be decisive strategic weapons. No longer were they just torpedo boats that occasionally submerged. They were true submarines capable of sustained underwater operations. Post-war, captured German Type XXI technology influenced every navy. The Soviet Union, America, Britain, and France all incorporated German innovations into their designs. These diesel-electric submarines eventually evolved into nuclear-powered vessels during the Cold War. From tiny Japanese midget subs attacking Pearl Harbor to massive IT-400 aircraft carriers, from German wolf packs terrorizing the Atlantic to American fleet boats strangling Japan, from innovative Type 21s arriving too late to British T-class boats with unprecedented firepower, submarines proved they could win or lose entire wars. 3,506 American submariners died. 30,000 German U-boatmen perished. Thousands more from other navies vanished beneath the waves. They fought in darkness, in crushing depths, in waters where a single mistake meant death for everyone aboard. No rescue was possible. When a submarine sank, it took all hands with it. Yet men kept volunteering because submarines offered a chance to strike directly at enemy hearts. They were the ultimate weapon of strategic warfare, capable of affecting entire campaigns without ever seeing the enemy up close. If this comprehensive journey through underwater warfare fascinated you, hit that like button and tell us in the comments which submarine story amazed you most.